Do-hyun Kim stood at the observation deck of Luna Station and watched the alien ships approach Earth's moon. The massive vessels looked like dark metal insects against the star field. Each ship was 3 times larger than anything humans had ever built. Their hulls gleamed with a strange purple light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "Ambassador Kim, they are requesting permission to dock," said Lieutenant So-Ra Park from the communication station. Her voice carried a slight tremor that she tried to hide. Do-hyun nodded slowly. After 200 years of interstellar travel, this was humanity's first official contact with an alien government. Earth had met other species before, but always during exploration missions in distant space. Never had aliens come to visit Earth's home system. "Grant them permission," Do-hyun said, "and send word to Admiral Lee that our guests have arrived." The Vorthak delegation consisted of 5 beings that walked on 6 legs each. Their bodies were covered in natural armor that looked like polished black metal. Each Vorthak stood nearly 8 feet tall. Their faces had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern around a mouth filled with sharp teeth. When they moved, their legs made clicking sounds on the station's metal floors. The lead Vorthak introduced himself as Ambassador Threxmol through a translation device that hung around his thick neck. His voice sounded like grinding machinery when it came through the translator. "Humans of Earth," Threxmol began, "we come with an offer of alliance. The galaxy faces a great war between the righteous Vorthak Empire and the dangerous Kalari Federation. You must choose a side." Do-hyun kept his face calm even though his heart was racing. Earth's intelligence services had detected signs of this galactic conflict for months, but no one had expected the aliens to arrive so soon or with such a direct demand. "The people of Earth appreciate your visit," Do-hyun replied carefully. "However, we would like to learn more about this conflict before making any decisions." Threxmol's 4 eyes focused on Do-hyun with an intensity that made the human ambassador uncomfortable. "There is nothing to learn. The Kalari are a plague upon the galaxy. They spread their poison ideas of peace and cooperation. They weaken strong species with their soft thinking. The Vorthak Empire has fought them for 30 Earth years. We grow tired of this war and seek allies to end it quickly." "What exactly would this alliance require from Earth?" Do-hyun asked. "You will provide ships and soldiers for our final assault on Kalari space. In return, the Vorthak Empire will share technology and protect Earth from other threats. Refuse, and Earth will face economic isolation from all civilized worlds." Admiral Bo-Ram Lee had been listening to the conversation through her communication implant from the command center deep within Luna Station. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Bo-Ram had spent 40 years in Earth's space navy and had never seen anything that worried her as much as these alien visitors. The Admiral activated her private channel to Do-hyun. "Ambassador, recommend extreme caution. Our scans show their ships carry enough firepower to glass half of Earth's surface." Do-hyun touched his earpiece briefly to acknowledge the message, then returned his attention to the Vorthak delegation. "Ambassador Threxmol, such an important decision requires consultation with Earth's government. We request time to consider your proposal." The alien's 4 eyes narrowed to thin slits. "How much time do humans require to recognize obvious truth?" "Perhaps 2 weeks," Do-hyun suggested. "You have 1 week," Threxmol said. "After that, the Vorthak Empire will assume Earth has chosen to side with our enemies." After the aliens returned to their ships, Do-hyun met with Admiral Lee in the station's secure briefing room. The room's walls were lined with screens showing data about the Vorthak vessels. "Their technology is at least 50 years ahead of ours," Bo-Ram said, pointing to the energy readings. "Those ships use some kind of biological power source that we cannot understand. Our weapons would barely scratch their hulls." "What about their numbers?" Do-hyun asked. "Intelligence suggests the Vorthak Empire controls over 200 star systems. They have thousands of ships like the ones outside. Earth's entire fleet consists of 37 vessels, and most of those are exploration ships with light weapons. Do-hyun rubbed his temples. The weight of representing all humanity in this decision felt crushing. What do we know about the Kalari? Very little, Boram admitted. Our long-range scouts have observed a few Kalari ships in distant systems. They appear to be aquatic beings who prefer diplomacy to warfare. Their technology seems focused on defense rather than conquest. So we have a choice between joining a powerful empire that demands military service or facing isolation and possible attack. That appears to be the situation, Boram agreed. 3 days later, Captain Tae-jin Park was completing a routine patrol mission in his exploration vessel Soul's Pride when his sensors detected a large energy signature near the edge of the solar system. Tae-jin was known throughout the fleet for his curiosity and his unwillingness to ignore anything unusual. "Helm, alter course to investigate that signature," he ordered. "Sir, we are supposed to return to base in 6 hours," said his first officer, Lieutenant Young-sik Cho. "This will not take long," Tae-jin replied. "Besides, with aliens visiting Earth, we should investigate any unusual activity in our system." What they found changed everything. A convoy of 15 small ships was being attacked by 3 Vorthak vessels. The small ships had smooth, curved hulls that gleamed like pearl. They were clearly outmatched and trying to escape rather than fight. "Captain, the attacking ships matched the design of our Vorthak visitors," Young-sik reported. "And the other ships? Unknown design, but they are broadcasting distress calls on standard galactic frequencies. The messages are in a language our computers cannot translate." Tae-jin watched through the main viewer as one of the small ships exploded under Vorthak weapons fire. The other ships scattered, but the Vorthak vessels pursued them with ruthless efficiency. Within minutes, all 15 ships were destroyed. The Vorthak vessels then spent time scanning the debris field, apparently searching for survivors. "Did anyone escape?" Tae-jin asked. "Negative, Captain. All ships destroyed, all hands lost. Begin recording everything. Full sensor sweeps. Detailed. Analysis of all ships involved. Sir, should we not maintain our distance? The Vorthak might consider our presence an act of hostility." Tae-jin considered this carefully. "We are in Earth space, conducting a legal patrol. Record everything." The Soul's Pride remained hidden behind a large asteroid while its sensors gathered data. The Vorthak ships finished their search and departed toward deep space. Tae-jin ordered his crew to investigate the debris field. They found pieces of ships that had clearly been designed for peaceful purposes. The hulls contained no weapon signatures. The debris included personal items that suggested the ships had been carrying families, including what appeared to be toys designed for aquatic children. "Captain," said Science Officer Mi-ran Jung, "these ships were refugee vessels. They were carrying civilians trying to escape from something." "From the Vorthak Empire, apparently," Tae-jin said grimly. When Soul's Pride returned to Luna Station, Tae-jin immediately requested a meeting with Admiral Lee and Ambassador Kim. He presented his evidence of the Vorthak attack on the refugee convoy. "This changes our understanding of the situation," Do-hyun said after reviewing the data. "The Vorthak told us the Kalari were dangerous aggressors. This evidence suggests otherwise." "It gets worse," Admiral Lee added. "We have received similar reports from 2 other patrol ships. The Vorthak have been hunting refugee convoys throughout this region of space." "What do we know about Kalari refugees in our space?" Do-hyun asked. "Intelligence suggests thousands of Kalari ships have been seeking sanctuary in neutral systems. The Vorthak appear to be following them and destroying any they find." Do-hyun felt sick. Earth was being asked to join a war of extermination, not a conflict between equals. Back on Earth, President Woo Bin-han sat in his office reading the reports from Luna Station. General Yoon-ji Choi, Earth's chief military strategist, stood before his desk with a grim expression. "Recommend we decline the Vorthak alliance," General Choi said. "This is not a war we can support ethically." "And face the consequences?" President Han asked. "Better to face economic isolation than become partners in genocide," the general replied. President Han activated his secure communication system and sent a message to Luna Station. "Ambassador Kim, inform the Vorthak that Earth declines their alliance offer. We choose neutrality." When Ambassador Threxmol received Earth's decision, his reaction was immediate and threatening. "Neutrality is a luxury that weak species cannot afford," he told Do-hyun. "The galaxy belongs to the strong. Earth will learn this lesson soon enough." The Vorthak ships departed Earth's space that same day, but not before conducting detailed scans of Earth's defensive installations. Admiral Lee noted with concern that the aliens had gathered enough intelligence to plan an effective attack. "They will be back," she told Do-hyun, "and next time they will not come asking for alliance." As the alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, Captain Tae-jin Park stood on the observation deck of Seoul's Pride and wondered if Earth had just made a terrible mistake. 3 months passed since the Vorthak delegation left Earth's space. Dr. Soo-jin Yang worked late into the night in her xenobiology laboratory on Luna Station, studying the data Captain Park had collected from the refugee massacre. The pieces of destroyed Kalari ships contained biological technology unlike anything humans had ever seen. "Computer, enhance the cellular structure analysis from sample 14, Soo-jin said, rubbing her tired eyes. The holographic display showed microscopic details of what appeared to be living metal. The Kalari had somehow created materials that combined organic and mechanical properties. Soo-jin had been studying these samples for weeks, trying to understand how such technology worked. Her research was interrupted by an urgent communication from Earth's Intelligence Division. Mi Young-bae, the head of intelligence, appeared on Soo-jin's screen with a worried expression. "Dr. Yang, we need you to review some intercepted Vorthak communications immediately. Your expertise in alien biology is required." "What kind of communications?" Soo-jin asked. "The kind that suggest Earth is in immediate danger." 20 minutes later, Soo-jin sat in a secure briefing room with Mi Young-bae and Admiral Lee. The intelligence chief activated a holographic display showing translated Vorthak text. "Our code breakers managed to decrypt several Vorthak military messages," Mi Young explained. "The content is disturbing." Soo-jin read the translated text and felt her blood turn cold. The messages discussed humanity in terms that made her stomach turn. The Vorthak referred to humans as soft flesh workers and breeding stock for labor colonies. One message specifically mentioned Earth's population as ideal for modification and control. "They never intended to honor any alliance," Admiral Lee said grimly. "This was always about conquest." "It gets worse," Mi Young continued. "We have detected Vorthak infiltration ships entering human space over the past 6 weeks. Small vessels, heavily cloaked, avoiding our patrol routes." "How many ships?" Soo-jin asked. "At least 12 that we know of. Possibly more." Admiral Lee stood and began pacing. "They are conducting reconnaissance for an invasion. We need to alert all colonies immediately." "Already done," Mi Young replied. "But there is something else. We believe the Vorthak have been studying human biology for months, possibly years. Some of these messages reference genetic samples and behavioral analysis." Soo-jin felt sick. "They have been planning this for a long time." 2 days later, Commander Jae-won-oh received orders for a classified mission that would take his stealth ship Ghost of Incheon deep into contested space. His mission was to observe Vorthak military operations against the Kalari and gather intelligence about enemy capabilities. Jae-won was a veteran of 20 years in Earth's space navy. He had commanded stealth operations throughout human space and had never failed to complete a mission. But this assignment felt different. For the first time, he was going behind enemy lines in an active war zone. "Commander, we are approaching the outer edge of Kalari space," reported his navigator, Lieutenant Dayun Lim. Sensors detect heavy Vorthak fleet activity ahead. Take us in slowly, Jaewon ordered. Full stealth protocols. We need to see what they are doing to the Kalari. What they found horrified the entire crew. The Vorthak fleet had surrounded a Kalari planet called Aquatica Prime. The beautiful blue world was home to billions of aquatic beings who had never threatened anyone. Vorthak ships were systematically bombarding population centers while smaller vessels landed troops on the surface. "Commander," said Science Officer Kyung-Soo Park, his voice shaking, "I am detecting massive life sign disruption on the planet's surface. The Vorthak are not just conquering the planet." "What do you mean?" Jaewon asked, though he feared he already knew. "They are exterminating the population. Systematic genocide of all native life forms. Through the ghost of Incheon's advanced sensors." The crew watched in horror as Vorthak ground forces herded captured Kalari into processing facilities. The aliens were not taking prisoners of war. They were harvesting biological material from living beings. "Sir, we need to record everything," Lieutenant Lim said. "Earth's government must see this." "Already recording," Jaewon replied, "but we need to get closer to understand exactly what they are doing in those facilities." The stealth ship moved carefully through the debris of destroyed Kalari vessels toward the planet's surface. What they discovered would haunt Jaewon for the rest of his life. The Vorthak were conducting biological experiments on captured Kalari, surgically modifying them into living weapons. "They are turning the Kalari into biological weapons," Kyung-Soo reported, his voice barely above a whisper. "Removing their higher brain functions and implanting control devices." "Why would they do this?" Lieutenant Lim asked. "Because biological weapons are harder to detect and defend against," Jaewon replied grimly. "They can infiltrate enemy populations before activating." The crew of Ghost of Incheon spent 3 days gathering evidence of Vorthak atrocities before beginning their journey back to Earth. During the return trip, they intercepted a desperate transmission from a surviving Kalari commander. The message was brief but terrifying. The Kalari had discovered that the Vorthak were using captured biological samples to develop a virus specifically designed to target human physiology. The Vorthak had been preparing for war against Earth long before they ever sent their diplomatic mission. Meanwhile, on Earth, engineer Hae Young-seo worked in a secret facility buried deep beneath the Korean peninsula. Her project, codenamed Thunder God, had been in development for 5 years. The system used quantum entanglement to deliver kinetic projectiles across vast distances instantly. "Final tests on the targeting system are complete," Hae Young reported, to General Choi. "We can accurately hit targets up to 50 light-years away with minimal energy consumption." "How many platforms can we deploy?" the general asked. "Currently, we have materials for 12 platforms. Each platform can fire once every 6 hours and carries enough ammunition for 100 shots. That is not enough to fight an entire empire," General Choi observed. "No, but it might be enough to convince them that attacking Earth would be very expensive," Hae Young replied. President Han reviewed the intelligence reports from Commander Oh's mission with growing alarm. The evidence of Vorthak biological warfare capabilities changed everything. This was not just a war of conquest. This was a war of extinction. "How long before they can deploy this anti-human virus?" he asked Mi Young-bae. "Unknown, but our analysis suggests they need more biological samples to perfect it. Live human subjects would accelerate their research significantly." "Which means they will need to capture human colonies," Admiral Lee added. "Then we need to evacuate the outer colonies immediately," President Han decided. "Sir, evacuation would alert the Vorthak that we know about their plans," Mi Young warned. "And leaving colonists defenseless would be murder," the president replied. "Begin evacuation procedures for all colonies beyond the Jupiter orbital zone." The evacuation began within hours, but it was already too late for some settlements. New Seoul Station, humanity's furthest outpost, went silent during the middle of the evacuation process. When rescue ships arrived, they found the station intact, but completely empty. All 15,000 colonists had vanished without a trace. No signs of struggle, no evidence of weapons fire, reported Captain Jin-Woo Ro of the rescue vessel Busan Hope. They were simply taken. Dr. Soo-Jin Yang analyzed the biological traces left at New Seoul Station and made a disturbing discovery. The Vorthak had used some kind of paralytic gas to incapacitate the entire population before transporting them alive to their ships. They took them for experimentation, she told Admiral Lee. 15,000 human guinea pigs. 2 weeks later, Commander O returned from a second reconnaissance mission with even worse news. The Vorthak had established a research facility in the Proxima Centauri system, barely 4 light-years from Earth. The facility was conducting experiments on captured humans and appeared to be mass-producing biological weapons. "We need to attack that facility," Admiral Lee urged President Han. "With what? Our entire fleet combined could not defeat a single Vorthak battleship," the president replied. "Then what do you suggest?" General Choi asked. "We contact the Kalari," President Han said. "If they are fighting for their survival, perhaps we can find common cause." Dr. Soo-Jin Yang had been thinking along similar lines. Her analysis of Kalari biotechnology suggested that their living metal could be adapted to human weapon systems. If Earth could combine human engineering with Kalari biology, they might have a chance against Vorthak technology. "I need to examine living Kalari biotechnology," she told Admiral Lee. "The samples from the refugee ships are too damaged to understand fully." "That would require direct contact with Kalari forces," the Admiral replied. "Then that is what we must do." Captain Taejin Park volunteered to lead a mission to make contact with the Kalari resistance. His ship Seoul's Pride had been modified with Ha-Young Seo's latest stealth technology and could potentially reach Kalari space undetected. "This is extremely dangerous," Admiral Lee warned him. "The Vorthak control most of the space between here and Kalari territory." "Someone has to make the attempt," Taejin replied. "Earth cannot fight this war alone." Before Seoul's Pride departed on its mission, the attack came without warning at 0347 Earth Standard Time. Kyung-Min Yu was finishing his night shift in the communications center of New Busan Station when every alarm in the facility began screaming at once. "This is not a drill," he announced over the station's speakers. "All personnel to emergency stations immediately." Through the observation windows, Kyung-Min could see massive shapes moving against the starfield. The Vorthak fleet had arrived in overwhelming force. 12 battleships surrounded the mining station, while smaller attack vessels moved to block all escape routes. "Communications to Earth Command," Kyung-Min ordered his assistant, Young Ho Min. "No response, sir. Something is jamming all frequencies." "Then, send a tight beam transmission to Luna Station. Maximum power." The transmission lasted only 30 seconds before Vorthak weapons destroyed the communication array. Kyung-Min managed to send a brief message describing the attack before the aliens cut off all contact with the outside universe. "Sir, they are boarding us," Young-Ho reported, his voice shaking with fear. "Lock down all computer systems and destroy the research data," Kyung-Min ordered. "Do not let them access our files." The two men worked frantically to erase sensitive information about Earth's defenses and colony locations. They could hear the sounds of alien feet in the corridors outside their center. The metallic clicking of Vorthak legs on metal floors grew, louder as the invaders approached. "Data purge complete," Young-Ho announced just as the door exploded inward. 3 Vorthak soldiers entered the communications center. Up close, they were even more terrifying than the images from Luna Station had suggested. Their natural armor gleamed under the emergency lights, and their 4 eyes tracked every movement with predatory intensity. "Humans will comply," one of the aliens said through its translator device. "Resistance will result in painful modification." "We are civilians," Kyung-Min said, trying to keep his voice steady. "This station has no military value." "All humans have value," the Vorthak replied. "You will serve the Empire in new capacity." 2 hours later, the last transmission from New Busan Station reached Luna Station. Admiral Lee watched the recording of Kyung-min Yu's final message with growing horror. "Admiral, the Vorthak have taken the entire station," Kyung-min's voice said through heavy static. 3,000 colonists captured alive. They are loading us onto transport ships. Whatever they plan to do with us, it is not good. Tell Earth that we went down fighting." The transmission ended abruptly. Admiral Lee stood in silence for several moments, processing the implications of what she had just witnessed. "How many other colonies are under attack?" she asked her aide, Captain So-Ra Kim. "Terra Nova went silent 20 minutes ago. Mining Station Alpha stopped responding an hour before that. We believe the Vorthak are conducting simultaneous raids on all outer settlements. Total casualties? Unknown, but potentially 50,000 civilians." Admiral Lee felt the weight of command crushing down on her shoulders. Earth's Navy had been caught completely unprepared for such a massive assault. Their ships were designed for exploration and patrol duties, not warfare against a technologically superior enemy. "Order all remaining colonies to begin immediate evacuation toward the inner system," she commanded, "and get me a direct line to President Han." 24 hours after the first attacks, President Han sat in the emergency command center beneath Seoul, surrounded by military advisors and intelligence officials. The situation reports painted a grim picture of humanity's first real taste of galactic warfare. The Vorthak have captured approximately 60,000 civilians from 7 different locations, Mi Young-bae reported. Their ships disappeared into hyperspace before our response fleets could engage. "What about our defensive positions?" the president asked. "Mars Defense Station and the Jupiter orbital platforms are still operational," Admiral Lee replied via secure communication. "But our analysis suggests they would not survive a direct assault by the Vorthak main fleet." "Then what are our options?" General Choi stepped forward with a tactical display. "We can attempt to defend the inner system with everything we have, but our chances of success are minimal. Alternatively, we can evacuate Earth's population to the colony ships and attempt to escape to another star system." "Abandon Earth?" President Han said. "That is not acceptable." "Sir, with respect, dying heroically will not save humanity," the general replied. "Sometimes tactical retreat is the only viable option." Before President Han could respond, Dr. Sujin Yang entered the command center with urgent news. "Mr. President, we have recovered several Vorthak prisoners from the attack on Terra Nova. My examination of their biology has revealed something important." "What kind of prisoners?" Mi Young-bae asked suspiciously. "They were not prisoners exactly," Sujin admitted. "They were Vorthak soldiers who died during the attack. Our medical teams managed to preserve their bodies for study." "And what did you learn?" President Han asked. "The Vorthak are not entirely mechanical. Their armor is actually a living organism that bonds with their natural body. More importantly, I found evidence of external control mechanisms." "What does that mean?" Admiral Lee asked through the communication system. "It means the individual Vorthak soldiers may not be acting entirely of their own free will. There appears to be some kind of biological control system that influences their behavior." President Han considered this information carefully. "Could this control system be disrupted?" "Possibly, but we would need more data, and we would need live subjects to test any countermeasures." The discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication from Captain Tae-jin Park aboard Seoul's Pride. His ship had been en route to Kalari space when the attacks began, but now he was reporting something even more disturbing. "Earth Command, we have intercepted Vorthak communications regarding the captured colonists. They are being transported to a facility in the Alpha Centauri system for immediate biological experimentation." "How many ships are guarding this facility?" Admiral Lee asked. "Unknown, but at least 6 Vorthak battleships. The facility appears to be heavily defended." President Han made a decision that would change the course of human history. "Admiral Lee, Prepare the fleet for combat operations. We are going to rescue our people. Sir, a direct assault would be suicide, Admiral Lee protested. Then we will not make a direct assault. We will use every advantage we can find, including Hae-Young Seo's Thunder God system. 3 days later, engineer Hae-Young Seo stood in the control center of humanity's most secret weapon. The Thunder God orbital platforms had been deployed around the solar system in complete secrecy. Each platform contained enough kinetic energy to destroy a city, and they could strike targets anywhere within 50 light-years instantly. Target data uploaded, reported her assistant, Min-Jun Lee. 12 Vorthak ships identified in the Alpha Centauri system. Are we certain about the location of the human prisoners? Hae-Young asked. Captain Park's reconnaissance confirms they are being held in a facility on the 4th planet. The Thunder God projectiles are programmed to avoid that location. Then let us remind the Vorthak that attacking Earth was a mistake, Hae-Young said. The first Thunder God strike hit a Vorthak battleship without warning. The quantum-entangled projectile appeared inside the alien vessel's hull and released its kinetic energy in a devastating explosion. The massive ship simply disintegrated. 11 more strikes followed in rapid succession. Within 30 seconds, the entire Vorthak fleet guarding the research facility had been destroyed. The aliens had never encountered weapons that could strike across interstellar distances without any travel time. But the victory was short-lived. Long-range sensors detected a massive Vorthak fleet moving toward Earth from deep space. Over 200 ships, including vessels larger than anything humans had ever seen. They are coming for us, Admiral Lee reported to President Han. Estimated arrival time is 72 hours. How many ships do we have to defend Earth? The President asked. 37 combat vessels, including converted civilian ships, against 200 Vorthak battleships. President Han closed his eyes and considered humanity's options. Earth's weapons had proven effective against Vorthak ships, but not in numbers sufficient to defeat an entire fleet. The Thunder God platforms had only enough ammunition for perhaps 50 more shots. Contact Captain Park, he ordered. Tell him to make contact with the Kalari immediately. We need allies, and we need them now. Meanwhile, Captain Young-Ho Kwan led the first rescue mission to Alpha Centauri aboard the destroyer Incheon's Sword. With the Vorthak fleet destroyed, his ships could approach the research facility without opposition. What they found there would fuel Earth's hatred of the Vorthak Empire for generations. The facility contained over 40,000 human prisoners from various colonies. The Vorthak had been conducting horrific experiments, attempting to modify human biology for their own purposes. Medical teams to the surface immediately, Young-Ho ordered, and prepare the ships for maximum capacity evacuation. Dr. Sang-Wook Jung led the medical team that entered the Vorthak research facility. A combat veteran who had seen action throughout human space. He was not easily shocked. But the alien laboratory left him speechless with horror. The Vorthak had been systematically dissecting living humans to understand their biology. Worse, T.I.'d. Captain Tae-Jin Park guided Seoul's Pride through the debris field that had once been the Kalari homeworld of Aquatica. The beautiful blue planet now hung in space like a broken jewel, its oceans boiling away into the vacuum while Vorthak ships continued their systematic destruction of everything that had once lived there. Captain, I am detecting survivors in the outer moon system, reported navigator Da Yun Lim. Small ships, heavily damaged, trying to hide in the asteroid field. Take us to them carefully, Tae-Jin ordered. If the Vorthak find us here, this mission ends badly for everyone. Seoul's Pride approached the hidden Kalari ships using full stealth protocols. The alien vessels were beautiful, even in their damaged state, with hulls that seemed to flow like liquid metal and energy signatures, unlike anything in human technology. They are scanning us, reported Science Officer Mi-Ran Jung. But their weapons are not charging. I think they recognize that we are not Vorthak. Open a communication channel, Tae-Jin said. All frequencies. The response came in a language that sounded like singing water, mixed with electronic harmonics. The translation computer worked for several minutes before producing understandable text. Unknown vessel, identify yourself. Are you allies of the destroyers? This is Captain Tae-Jin Park of the Earthship Soul's Pride. We are not allies of the Vorthak Empire. We seek contact with Kalari forces to discuss mutual assistance against our common enemy. There was a long pause before the Kalari responded. Earth vessels were reported in this system previously. You observed the massacre of our refugee fleet. Yes, and we reported that massacre to our government. Earth refused to join the Vorthak Alliance because of what we witnessed. Then you are welcome aboard our vessel, Captain Park. I am Commander Finara of the Kalari Resistance Fleet. An hour later, Tae-Jin found himself in the most unusual environment he had ever experienced. The Kalari ship was filled with water, but somehow he could breathe normally. The alien technology created pockets of air around visiting humans, while maintaining the aquatic environment the Kalari required. Commander Finara was a graceful being about 8 feet tall, with blue-green skin that seemed to shimmer in the ship's lighting. Her large eyes held an intelligence that reminded Tae-Jin of dolphins, but with a depth of sadness that spoke of tremendous loss. Your species interests us greatly, Finara said through a translation device. The Vorthak spoke of humans as weak creatures suitable only for slavery. Yet you refused their alliance, and now risk your lives to contact us. Earth believes in protecting those who cannot protect themselves, Tae-Jin replied. The Vorthak have attacked our colonies and captured our people for experimentation. We need allies if we are going to stop them. What can your species offer in alliance? The Vorthak have destroyed most of our worlds and scattered our fleets. We have little to give beyond our knowledge of their weaknesses. We have weapons that can strike across interstellar distances instantly. We have already destroyed several Vorthak fleets with these weapons. But we need to understand Vorthak biology better to use them effectively. Finara's expression changed to something that might have been hope. Show me these weapons. Tae-Jin activated a secure holographic display showing recordings of the thunder. God strikes against the Vorthak research facility. The Kalari commander watched in amazement as human weapons destroyed alien battleships without warning. Impossible, she whispered. No weapon can travel faster than light. These weapons do not travel at all. They use quantum entanglement to appear instantly at their target. The Vorthak have no defense against them because they have never encountered similar technology. How many of these weapons do you possess? Not enough to destroy the entire Vorthak Empire, Tae-Jin admitted, but perhaps enough to give both our species a chance at survival. Finara called for her science officer, a smaller Kalari named Aquatel, who specialized in Vorthak technology. The scientist examined the human weapon data with growing excitement. This explains why the Vorthak fear artificial intelligence, Aquatel said. Their biological technology cannot process quantum entanglement. They would be helpless against such weapons. What do you mean about artificial intelligence? Tae-Jin asked. The Vorthak Empire once faced a rebellion by artificial beings they had created. The war nearly destroyed them. Since then, they have avoided all technology that involves quantum computing or artificial intelligence. Because such technology could be used against their biological control systems, Tae-Jin realized. Exactly. If your quantum weapons could be modified to disrupt their control networks instead of simply destroying ships, you could free millions of enslaved beings throughout the galaxy. Back on Earth, engineer Hai-Young Seo worked frantically to modify the Thunder God system based on data transmitted from Soul's Pride. The Kalari had provided detailed information about Vorthak neural networks and control mechanisms. The modifications will reduce the kinetic damage, but create quantum interference patterns that should disrupt their biological systems, she explained to Dr. Soo-Jin Yang. How many Vorthak ships could we disable instead of destroy? Soo-Jin asked. Theoretically, hundreds, but the effect would only last for a few hours before their systems adapt. A few hours might be enough, Admiral Lee said, joining the conversation. If we can disable their fleet temporarily, our ships could board them and rescue human prisoners. Meanwhile, Dr. Sang-Wook Jung had been studying the Vorthak prisoners recovered from the research facility. His analysis revealed something that changed everything humanity thought they knew about their enemy. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately," he called over the communication system. "The Vorthak soldiers are not entirely alien." "What do you mean?" Admiral Lee asked. "I mean, they show evidence of genetic modification from multiple species. The Vorthak Empire appears to be composed of conquered beings who have been biologically altered to serve as soldiers." "Are you saying the Vorthak themselves are victims?" "Some of them, yes. The core Vorthak species exists, but many of their soldiers are modified beings from dozens of different worlds. They have been turned into biological robots with no free will." This revelation reached President Han just as the Vorthak Revenge Fleet entered Earth's outer system. 200 alien ships moved toward humanity's homeworld with obvious hostile intent. "Can we free these enslaved soldiers?" the president asked. "Possibly, if we can disrupt their control implants," Dr. Jung replied. "But it would require precise application of the quantum interference technology. Then that becomes our primary objective. We are not just defending Earth. We are liberating every being the Vorthak have enslaved." The first phase of the battle began when the Thunder God platforms opened fire on the approaching Vorthak fleet. But instead of destroying the alien ships, the modified weapons sent quantum pulses that disrupted their biological control systems. Suddenly, dozens of Vorthak ships stopped their attack and began broadcasting distress signals. The quantum interference had freed their crews from the biological programming that forced them to serve the Empire. "Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from 47 Vorthak vessels," reported Communications Officer So-Ra Kim. "They claim to be liberated slaves requesting sanctuary." "Grant their requests," Admiral Lee ordered, "and prepare boarding parties to assist with the transition." But not all the Vorthak ships were affected. The core Empire vessels, crewed by true Vorthak rather than enslaved beings, continued their attack on Earth's defenses. These ships proved much more dangerous than their slave-crewed counterparts. "The remaining enemy vessels are adapting to our quantum weapons," reported Captain Young-Ho Kwan from the destroyer Busan's Thunder. "Our next volley will be less effective." "Then we use conventional weapons," Admiral Lee decided. "All ships, engage the remaining Vorthak forces with everything we have." The space battle raged for 6 hours above Earth's atmosphere. Human ships, designed for exploration rather than warfare, fought desperately against technologically superior opponents. Many brave crews gave their lives to protect their homeworld. Lieutenant So-Young Kang piloted her fighter through the battle with skill that amazed her squadron mates. Her ship, Incheon Ghost, had been modified with Kalari technology that allowed it to phase briefly out of normal space. "Ghost leader to all fighters," she announced over the squadron frequency. "The aliens cannot track us when we phase. Use hit and run tactics." Her squadron began appearing inside Vorthak ship formations, firing their weapons, then phasing back out before the aliens could respond. The technique was devastating against enemy vessels that relied on tracking systems designed for conventional warfare. "How are they doing that?" demanded the Vorthak fleet commander through intercepted communications. "Unknown technology," came the reply. "Our sensors cannot lock onto targets that exist partially outside normal space." Meanwhile, engineer Min-Jun Lee worked with a team of Kalari technicians who had been transported to Earth aboard Soul's Pride. Together, they developed new weapons that combined human engineering with Kalari biotechnology. The hybrid weapons can adapt to Vorthak countermeasures in real time, Min-Jun explained to Admiral Lee. "They learn from each engagement and modify their attack patterns." "How quickly can we deploy these weapons to the fleet?" the Admiral asked. 6 months after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Chang Ho-an stood on the bridge of humanity's newest flagship, the battleship Liberation. Around him, the combined human Kalari fleet prepared for the final assault on the Vorthak throne world of Nexus Prime. 200 ships from dozens of formerly enslaved species had joined the alliance after learning that freedom was possible. "Admiral, all ships report ready for the final jump," announced his aide, Commander So-Ra Kim. "The Liberation Fleet is the largest armada ever assembled in galactic history." Chang Ho nodded grimly. The path to this moment had been built on the graves of billions of beings murdered by the Vorthak Empire. Every species in the Alliance had lost worlds to the biological tyranny that had ruled the galaxy for centuries. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Today, we end the age of slavery." On the planet's surface, Dr. Su-Jin Yang led a team of scientists and soldiers through the nightmare landscape of the Vorthak capital. The entire world was a living organism, with buildings that pulsed like organs and streets that flowed like blood vessels. Everything on Nexus Prime served the biological network that controlled the Empire. "The biocore is 3 kilometers ahead," reported Captain Jinwoo Ro, consulting his scanner. "But the pathway is defended by automated biological defenses." "What kind of defenses?" Su-Jin asked. "Living weapons embedded in the city structure itself. Walls that can shoot acid, floors that can digest intruders, air that becomes toxic on command." Su-Jin checked her equipment one more time. The virus she carried could permanently disable the Vorthak control network, but only if she could reach the central biocore and upload it directly into the system. The fate of trillions of enslaved beings depended on her success. "Captain Park's team is in position at the secondary access point," Jinwoo reported. "And Lieutenant Kang's squad has disabled the outer detection grid." "Then let us finish this," Su-Jin said. Above the planet, the space battle raged with unprecedented fury. The Vorthak threw everything they had at the Liberation Fleet, including weapons that had never been seen before. Biological ships the size of moons emerged from hidden bases throughout the system. "Those are not ships," observed Science Officer Miran Jung aboard Soul's Pride. "They are living creatures bred specifically for space warfare." "Can our weapons affect them?" asked Captain Taejin Park. "The quantum disruptors work, but these creatures are so large that we need multiple hits to disable them completely." "Lieutenant." So-Young Kang led her fighter squadron against one of the massive bioships. Her Inchen Ghost had been upgraded with hybrid human Kalari technology that allowed her to phase directly through the creature's defenses. "All fighters, target the neural clusters along the creature's spine," she announced. "Those are its control centers." Her squadron attacked with precision that amazed their alien allies. Human pilots had proven to possess an intuitive understanding of three-dimensional combat that gave them advantages even against superior technology. The bioship shuddered as quantum torpedoes disrupted its nervous system. Slowly, the massive creature stopped attacking and began drifting helplessly through space. "Bioship disabled," So-Young reported. "But there are 12 more in this system alone." Meanwhile, Dr. Su-Jin Yang and her team fought their way through the living city toward the biocore. The Vorthak defenses were unlike anything they had encountered before. Walls sprouted tentacles that tried to grab the intruders, while the floor beneath their feet attempted to digest their boots. "Use the acid neutralizer on everything," Jinwoo ordered his soldiers. "Do not let any part of this city touch your skin." They reached the biocore chamber after 2 hours of fighting through biological horrors. The core itself was a massive brain-like structure suspended in a pool of glowing fluid. Thousands of neural pathways connected it to every part of the Vorthak Empire. "This is it," Su-Jin whispered. "The mind that has enslaved half the galaxy." As she prepared to upload the Liberation virus, the biocore suddenly began communicating directly with her through telepathic contact. What she learned changed everything she thought she knew about the Vorthak Empire. The original Vorthak species had been peaceful explorers, much like early humanity, but they had discovered ancient biological technology left behind by a long-dead civilization. The technology had promised to eliminate disease and extend life indefinitely. Instead, it had enslaved them. The biocore was not a Vorthak creation. It was the surviving consciousness of the ancient species that had built it, and it had been using the Vorthak as tools to spread its influence throughout the galaxy. The Vorthak are victims too, Su-Jin realized. This entire empire is controlled by a parasite that feeds on biological energy. She faced a terrible choice. The virus she carried would destroy the biocore and free all enslaved species, but it would also kill billions of Vorthak who were themselves prisoners. Alternatively, she could try to modify the virus to separate the parasite from its hosts, but that approach might fail completely. "Dr. Yang, what is your status?" came Captain Park's voice through her communicator. "I need more time," she replied. "The situation is more complex than we thought." Above the planet, Admiral Chang Ho-an watched as more bioships emerged from hidden locations throughout the system. The Liberation Fleet was holding its own, but barely. They needed the ground mission to succeed soon. "Admiral, we are detecting massive energy buildup from the planet's core," reported his sensor officer. "Something big is happening down there. Can you contact Dr. Yang's team?" "Negative, sir. Biological interference is blocking all communications with the surface." Su-Jin worked frantically to modify the Liberation virus, while the biocore attempted to overwhelm her mind with telepathic pressure. The ancient consciousness was trying to turn her into another slave, but her human brain proved surprisingly resistant to its influence. "Human minds are chaotic," the biocore communicated. "You cannot be properly controlled." "That is because we choose our own path," Su-Jin replied while her fingers flew over her equipment. "Freedom is more important than order," she finished. The modifications just as Vorthak soldiers burst into the biocore chamber. But these were not the enslaved troops she expected. They were free Vorthak who had somehow broken their conditioning and come to help her. "We felt the control weakening," one of them explained through a translation device. "Some of us have been fighting the parasite for generations, waiting for a chance to break free." "Then help me upload this virus," Su-Jin said. "It will free your entire species." Together, the human scientist and the rebel Vorthak connected her device to the biocore. The ancient parasite fought desperately to prevent the upload, sending waves of psychic agony through everyone in the chamber. "Hold on!" Jinwoo shouted, supporting Su-Jin as she struggled to complete the process. "Just a few more seconds." The Liberation virus spread through the biocore's neural network like wildfire. As it propagated, the psychic pressure suddenly vanished. Throughout the galaxy, enslaved beings felt the chains of biological control snap as their minds became their own again. On Nexus Prime, millions of Vorthak soldiers stopped fighting and looked around in confusion as they remembered who they had been before the parasite took control. Many of them had been enslaved for so long that they had no memory of freedom. "The core is dying," reported one of the rebel Vorthak. "But the planetary biosystems are collapsing with it. We need to evacuate immediately." Above the planet, Admiral Chang Ho-an watched in amazement as the massive bioship suddenly stopped attacking and began broadcasting surrender signals. The Liberation virus had freed their crews, and they no longer served the empire that had enslaved them. "All ships, begin rescue operations," he ordered. "Priority on evacuating the surface teams and civilian populations." The evacuation of Nexus Prime took 3 days. As the planet's biological systems shut down, millions of beings who had been prisoners in their own bodies for generations experienced freedom for the first time. Many of them had been enslaved so long that they needed extensive help to remember how to make their own decisions. Dr. Su-Jin Yang was among the last to leave the dying world. She stood in the biocore chamber, watching as the ancient parasite finally died after millions of years of existence. Was it worth it? Asked Captain Jinwoo Ro. Look around you, Sujin replied, gesturing toward the freed Vorthak who were helping with the evacuation. Former enemies working together to save lives, former slaves choosing to help their liberators. I think it was worth it. 3 months later, Ambassador Do-hyun Kim stood before the newly formed Galactic Council on the neutral world of Haven Station. Representatives from 200 species filled the assembly hall, many of them speaking freely for the first time in their lives. The Terran Federation proposes a new principle for galactic civilization, Do-hyun announced. No species shall be enslaved, modified, or controlled against their will. Every being has the right to choose their own destiny. The proposal passed unanimously. Even the former Vorthak Empire, now renamed the Vorthak Republic, voted in favor of the Freedom Declaration. Commander Fin Ara of the Kalari approached Do-hyun after the session. Your species has changed the galaxy forever, she said. But what will humans do now that the war is over? What we have always done, Do-hyun replied.